Mr. Chairman, I thank the ranking member as well. Again, Mr. Cordray, I thank you for appearing. Mr. Cordray, I am confident that at some point in the course of this hearing today, there will be some questions about your responses to various letters that have been written to you. And while I think that you have given responses, I don't think I should speak for you. I think you should be accorded an opportunity to speak for yourself. I have one document that indicates that you've made significant efforts to comply with the requests that have been made, and you list some 10 or more indications of what your efforts have been. But would you kindly now take the time that you need to explain this circumstance and the responses that you've given?
Sure, and I'm glad to have the opportunity. I'll just simply say I think this is, in many respects, a natural back and forth between the Congress, which has the rightful and important responsibility of oversight, and an executive agency like our own, which is, of course, ultimately accountable to the Congress, both for carrying out the statute that Congress has enacted, that is the law that we're supposed to implement, and to make sure that you have the information you need to be able to oversee our operations. There's no disagreement about that. There's no resentment about that. I mean, it can be a lot of work to respond to aggressive oversight, but I don't begrudge it. I think it's appropriate role of the Congress. Beyond that, there can be individual disagreements about whether, when a document request was made to us and we responded to it, whether it was done as fast as it might have been or whether it was done as fully as it might have been. There's a lot of reasons why some of these document requests take a fair amount of time to comply with, particularly if they involve detailed email searches or document searches, and sometimes involve thousands and thousands of pages. And particularly if they involve any kind of personally identifiable information, we are required by Federal law to be careful about how we handle that information. But having said that, that's just those are the parameters we all operate within. We understand that. We understand your responsibilities. I think we understand our responsibilities. It's our every intention to make sure that this committee has all the information it needs. Whenever we're told that we haven't done that, we're glad to have more discussion. We've offered in-camera reviews where that's appropriate. We've provided documents where that's appropriate. We will continue to work through each issue to the point where we're both satisfied. That's my intention, and it continues to be my intention.
I'm honored to know what your intentions are, and I say this to you candidly because there is an indication that a subpoena ducis tecum may be issued. And of course, as a lawyer, you understand what that means in terms of compelling you to produce documents. My hope is that you'll be given an opportunity to explain yourself when specific questions are asked with reference to this. Now, let's move to something else. Let's talk about the small banks for just a moment. I am a big proponent of doing what we can to be of assistance to small banks. I've received many concerns expressed, and my desire is to give them some level of relief. I'm pleased to hear you talk about helping small banks. Small banks, for the most part, consist of about 90% of the banks in this country, because about 90% of the banks, a little bit more by some standards, are under $1 billion. And in this country today, if you're under $1 billion, you're considered a small bank, maybe even a very small bank. I know that the public probably doesn't quite understand that, but by the standards that we have now, if you're under $1 billion, you're probably a very small bank. I want to do what I can and have offered to work across the aisle to help small banks. I always find, however, that when we get engaged in this process, we find ourselves with wording, language that will not only include the small banks, but also the mega banks, the banks that actually produce these exotic products, the teaser rates that coincided, the interest rates that were offered to you to get you into a contract, and then have a prepayment penalty that would not allow you to get out of the contract so as to benefit from having an additional rate that would not be locked in for some period of time that would be harmful to you. So these teaser rates that coincided with prepayment penalties were a problem. So do what you can to help the small banks. I'm all for that, and we may have to do something to give some other relief at a later time, but let's help those small banks, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
I yield back.
Thank you, sir.